Pen Young started, he come in and hung his hat on the wall over there, and he shook his boots off and dirt off of him, and he walked around and he started up the step. And when Pen Young got on that 13th step, that slave had that sword up there, and he come out and cut him half into it and killed him.
Local legend tells us that in 1879, Penn Young, a local slave owner, was killed by his slave, waiting in the shadows to enact his revenge. Although this house holds a lot of charm and beauty, the inside of these walls lurks a haunting past. There are many documented cases of paranormal activity happening on the grounds of Spring Villa.
Anytime that you walk up on that hill at night when the moon is full, if you look, you can see Pen Young. He's stomping his feet, just stomping the dust off.
Join me, Anna Hart, as we explore the past and present hauntings of this historical Opelika landmark, Spring Villa. Legend says that Penn Young was born in 1823 in Georgia. When he was just 12 years old, his father died, leaving Young with no inheritance. This significant event in Young's life would set in motion a series of choices he would make in order to ensure that he and his family had money to live on.
Before the Civil War, lower income whites were often squatters. They didn't own their own land, truly living in just lean-tos, in some cases living in caves. The South was very poor, despite our common perception of these large plantations with 100+ slaves. That was not the reality for the average white Southerner. The reality was living a bare bones existence, subsistence farming, relying on the handouts of those who did own slaves and those who benefited from the economic system of that time period.
The search for money became even more of a priority for Young in 1846 when he met a girl from Girard, Alabama, and asked her to marry him. Mary Ann Godwin and Young would spend 18 months traveling around the vast California frontier in search of gold to secure their future.
One of the biggest things during the 1800s when gold was discovered was that everybody kind of had this idea of the American dream, that they could go out to California, that they would find their piece of gold, and that they would make it big. But the reality was a little bit different. The travel out to California, out west, just to try and even make it there was much more complicated and much more gruesome, trying to either ride a horse or take a covered wagon out there. Once the railroads were built, it was a little easier to get out west, but still, once most of these miners arrived, it was much more of a difficult task, and there wasn't as much gold as people thought.
Finding success in California, Young turned his focus to mining for other precious rocks and minerals. Hearing about a tremendous amount of limestone in East Alabama, Young traveled to Auburn and started his company, Chihuahua Lime Works. His company generated thousands of dollars and kept Penn very busy.
Similarly, in Auburn, a lot of people started mining the area around Chihuahua, trying to not necessarily find gold, but find nuggets of materials to build things and really build up this town and this area. It was so popular that even in the 1930s, the government sent the CCC during the Great Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps, to help build Chihuahua into a state park, and it is still around today.
Because of Penn's love for limestone and quartz, he had this house built for him so he could watch over his new business, Chihuahua Lime Works. Young had a history of abuse towards his slaves, which meant that a lot of them had built up anger towards him.
It's definitely a possibility that people in the South still kept their slaves, and the climate in the South was that of they had rejoined the United States. We were going through Reconstruction, but it doesn't mean that every citizen would have abided by the law that was set down after the Civil War of not having any slaves. Even if they were free, people were still treated as slaves. They paid very minimal, if at all. They had no rights, really. The jobs that they were given were ex-slave jobs. So pretty much in the South at this time, you still had people that their title might not have been slave, but they were still theoretically slaves in a lot of people's eyes in the South at this time.
Penn Young was going upstairs one night, and in the wall there's like a cubby hole in the back of the wall, and as he got up, they said on the 13th step that the slave stabbed him to death or either cut his head off and killed him. And then after that, we've had people say that the house is haunted.
One story deals with a camping trip cut short by a power outage. The campers who were going to sleep in the house were being bused back into Opelika when a counselor went back inside to make sure nothing or no one had been left behind. After he had been gone for a long time, the person in charge went to look for him and found him sitting on the floor, white as a ghost, and crying and obviously scared almost to death. Later, he said he had seen and heard a man playing a piano in the house. There was no piano in the house. Since then, others have reported hearing a piano playing in the building. Also, many years ago, 3 small boys reportedly drowned in the lake. People have reported hearing voices of young boys for a number of years. There has also been numerous reported sightings of a 5 to 8-year-old blonde-haired boy on the property. And a story of a little girl who once was a slave, wandering the grounds in a white dress. For decades, the story of the cruel slave owner murdered on his 13th step has been recounted over campfires by Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and camp counselors. People who visit the home tell stories of a ghost-like little girl walking around the campground in all white, sounds of a piano playing throughout the house, and a story regarding 2 little boys who drowned in the lake nearby. But just how much of the legend is fiction, and how much of it is eerily true? And if the legend is true, you've got to ask yourself, do you believe in ghosts?